Okay, so thank you for joining in this class. This is the 8th class of the Kala Sarpa Yoga, and I hope if you must have caught up with the recordings of the previous class where I spoke about the different types of nagas from houses 1 to 12 depending upon the Rahu Ketu axis. Okay, and then we towards the end we also spoke about a few guidelines for interpreting Kala Sarpa in the houses. Yes. So now let's get to the let's take a deep dive into the characteristics, the bodily characteristics, the physical characteristics, the psychology, then the relationship aspect, the modulating effects of how a person will behave depending upon which axis the Kala Sarpa is located. Okay, so again, we'll start with Rahu in the first house, and then we will continue with the other houses. Okay, so anyways, before beginning, let's start with the Shanti mantra that we usually do. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunakatu Sah Viryankar Vavahai Tejasvinadaditamastu Ma Vidavishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay. So Kala Sarpa with Rahu in the first house. Okay. So in general, Rahu in the first house is very troublesome. Okay. You just picture a snake lying across the chart with its head in the ascendant and its tail in the seventh house. All right. So what it does basically is that it places two malefics in Kendras. Okay. And usually when you see malefics in Kendras to determine whether or not they will give good results, those malefics, the rule is the malefics in Kendras must be debilitated. Okay, if a malefic has gone into a Kendra, it better be debilitated. Okay, otherwise it will give problems. All right, so you look at Sri Rama's chart. He had an exalted Mars in the seventh house. Yes, and an exalted Saturn in the fourth house. So his life was filled with difficulties and miseries. All right, so for a malefic to give good results in a Kendra, it must be debilitated. Okay. So with two malefics in Kendras, it imbues the native with a degree of power based upon fascination and fear. Okay, and this Rahu, it represents desire and obsession regards to the first house affairs, and Ketu, it denotes ambivalence and detachment. Okay, so with Rahu in the first and Ketu in the seventh, this will create a bias for self aggrandizement and self gratification at the cost of caring for others. Okay, and this biasness will play out very poignantly in the realm of relationships. Okay, now considering the physical aspects of this yoga, so the physicality of the native will be unique in some way. Okay, and there will be an aura of vitality. Okay, and if it's a male native, then such a native can control his musculature athletically or aesthetically. Okay, because Ketu is in the seventh house, so the native may act in an aggressive manner because the seventh house, it represents the other. Okay, it represents the world around us. All right, and usually the native will have a habit of portraying himself or herself as a showcase of vitality. Okay, for example, maybe he or she would be a very powerful athlete, or maybe a virile lover, maybe a fierce warrior. Okay, because Rahu is the most courageous planet after Mars. Okay, Mars is a significator of courage, but next to Mars is Rahu. Okay, and as a result of this Rahu being in the ascendant, everything that the native does will be designed more or less to intimidate his opponents or to garner praise from his social milieu. Okay. Now, of course, this can be achieved legitimately. Okay. For example, if the native indulges in genetic athleticism, above average sexual vigor, magnetic persona, or even by having a competitive drive. So these are all legitimate ways to achieve this. Okay. But then if a native has not been granted these gifts by nature, then he or she may pursue them by whatever means. Okay, they may even pursue them by cheating. All right. And if the native is spiritually inclined, then what this combination might entail is that it can make the native undergo some rigorous tapasya, okay, or devotional discipline. Yes, to achieve a siddhi. What is a siddhi? Siddhi is a paranormal power. Okay. So I've seen this happening with people having Rahu in the ascendant. They come across siddhis very easily. And the thing about siddhis, the funny thing about siddhis is that you cannot stumble upon siddhis. They have to be given to you by a higher authority. More importantly, by a guru. Okay. And the native has a very urgent need for self-fulfillment. Okay. And it can actually, this need for self-fulfillment can actually become a higher calling. Okay. But then higher calling, the native will not want to to pursue this higher calling through a typical route. Okay. Usually what happens is, these natives are very fond of trying out artificial stimulants like drug or alcohol. Okay. And these stimulants, they not only inflate the body, you know beer, if you consume a lot of beer, you can have an inflated belly. Okay. So it also inflates the personality or ego with the fuel to bright, or with the fuel to burn brighter or be brighter than everyone else. Okay. And what is the Rahuvian motto that we know? The motto is to win at all costs. Okay. Now in Ayurveda, Rahu is related to Vata dosha. Okay. Because of this, the native may suffer from some kind of derangement. All right. He might be mentally unstable, maybe very erratic, maybe very twitchy. And physically also, there may be some irregularities or misalignments with the body. Okay. And nervous tics around the eyes or mouth are symptoms, of an afflicted vata. Okay. It is, these are very symptomatic of vata, which is running haywire in the nervous system. Okay. What is vata? Vata means air. All right. And Rahu is the head of the serpent. Okay. So it has a definite association with venom, with poison, or maybe bad, some kind of bad chemistry. Okay. So because Rahu is placed in the first house, it may indicate some kind of skin cancer on the face or on the head. Okay. Now, psychologically speaking, this Rahu in the first house, it wants to be larger than life. Okay. And if such a person cannot be a leader, he or she will definitely try to, raise head and shoulders above above the pack or above the group. Okay. You've seen how, you can compare this personality with the, the psychology rather, with the avatar that a king cobra has. You know how a king cobra looks. Okay. Just type on YouTube and see how a king cobra behaves. Okay. When it is confronted, it actually raises its head 5 feet above the ground, and it holds a stance of power that strikes fear into most observers. And that is how these natives, they have a tendency of behaving. Yeah. Gomed Churan. Yes. Okay. So now, to feel important, the native may foster a cult of personality. Okay, maybe often involving physical cultivation. For example, the native may be very, very fond of personal grooming, bodybuilding, or fashion statements. Okay, so whatever the native does, he or she is constantly on a mode to prove that how striking they are. That look at me, how striking I am. Okay, so this kind of individualism is usually promoted via social climbing. Okay, so everything that the native does will, is meant to draw others into his orbit, right? So what does the sun do? The sun is the central point of the solar system around which the other planets revolve. So Rahu is, he is the artificial sun. He is the imitative sun. So everything the native does is meant to draw people into his orbit. Okay. And what are the tokens of his or her recognition? How will the native be recognized? Maybe via sexual attractiveness, via a magnetic personality that draws a lot of admirers. Okay. Now, if you have such a combination, you have to take care that this does not manifest as narcissism. Yes, I got it wrong. Yes, narcissistic. It should not manifest as narcissistic behavior. Okay. And if this Rahu, if steps are not taken to control this Rahu, it can eat up your relationships. Okay. Because when such natives, they try to get famous, they usually do at the cost of others, who then get relegated to the role of spectators, or social probes to applaud his needy ego. So there would be a great need of validation that the native would have. Okay, there would be a great amount of validation that the native would need to satisfy his or her ego. Okay, now these are the people who see themselves as champions of change, innovation and mobility. All right, so it's not a bad thing always, but you are not responsible for the world, you are only responsible for yourself. Okay, and the native, he or she would want to be a pioneer, you know to win in every situation. Okay, and as a reward, such a native will often seek special privilege. Okay, maybe to be admired, or maybe to gain power to pursue his or her ambitions of of self expansion, or self aggrandizement. Yes. Now these people, they are very opportunistic also. Okay, they can be very opportunistic, and if the stage is, for example, suppose there is a performance going on in a stage and the stage is vacant, then such a native will rush to bound that stage just to make himself or herself feel important. Okay, now if one is already there in such a stage, he or she will dispose them of, expropriating the attention that is required. And for these people, nothing is off limits. Okay, what I mean by this is that there will be no checks on financial, political, sexual, or social ambitions, because there is a great sense of entitlement to seize whatever they can. Okay, and narcissism is the thread that holds the fabric of this personality together. Okay, so if the ego gives up, then the personality can obviously improve. All right. Now, the native will be prone to seizing and enveloping objects of his fascination. That means every beautiful girl he comes across, or every beautiful boy a girl with this combination comes across, there would be a lot of effort made to seize that person. Okay, but then this could be productive also, right? Maybe there could be obsession with studying some important subject. Maybe the native will be obsessed with studying Ayurveda. Okay, and if it is not obsession with something good, then it may indicate an addictive personality. Okay, what are the indications? The native may form a lot of attachments to people and things, but those attachments will usually be unhealthy. Okay, so this Rahu in the first, it promotes innovation and out of the box thinking. So if you have gone through my YouTube videos, I told you that Rahu is out of the box thinking. Yes. So the native is adventurous, and he or she is always willing to try anything new. Okay, and usually there is a love for the unusual, for something which is offbeat or even foreign, because Rahu represents the foreign element in the chart. Yes, and such natives are very curious. They usually have eclectic interests, and a very good capacity to digest a variety of information and experiences. Okay, and such people usually have a very technical mindset and a great love for details. So they are always fascinated by science and technology, and such natives can be very insightful, can be very deep thinkers. Okay, and if somehow they manage to learn the real meaning of individuality, the true meaning of individuality, then such true individuality may enhance their creativity. Okay, may enhance their innovation and their willingness to stand out in a crowd of mediocre, in a crowd of what to say, mediocrity, if that is the perfect word. Okay, they don't want to, they don't want to be they don't want to be mediocre. They would want to always stand out in that crowd. Okay, and if there is no true individuality, then such natives, they may simply become bohemian. Okay, you know hitching a ride on any subculture that espouses freedom at all costs, flaunting behaviors that defy social norms. You have seen the hippie culture, how that worked in the late 1970s. Okay, so this is all about Rahu in the first house. And as I said, there is a constant need to feel very special, to have his, primacy acknowledged. But then this uniqueness can also make those people loners who are very different from the crowd. Okay, you know such people, they literally may feel like outsiders or strangers in a strange land, or maybe as members of some alternative culture that lies outside the norm. You've seen people who are not very fond of the culture that they are born in, and they constantly seek other cultures, maybe through films or television, or through books that that they think will be good for them. Okay, and so this, what it means is that these people, they have a heightened sense of self, and such a sense of self, they usually, it actually helps these natives to adapt to circumstances. Okay, and when such adaptation happens, the native can morph into whatever he or she wants. Okay, and these people are usually good at distinguishing themselves, playing roles, blending into the environment like chameleons, maybe like a spy, or maybe like a thief, or even like an undercover agent. So it's not all bad with Rahu in the first house. Okay, now since snakes can also, they change shapes, so this native will also behave like a shape shifter. Okay, for example, he or she can usurp someone else's power by leeching aspects of their identity. Okay, and whenever these people are called as, as charlatans or frauds or imposter, then you know even then their activity may still be socially approved. Okay, you know for example, when Elvis Presley used to do stage shows, he always had an impersonator who he used to project on the screen because he wanted to take rest in between his shows. So this Elvis impersonator was also admired because he looked and acted the part that was supposed to be done by Elvis Presley. Okay, but if you have such an if you have such a personality imposter or impersonator, then such an impersonator may also represent you unethically. Okay, for example, someone resembling a movie star who uses that to get free drinks, maybe get laid, or or anything, any mischievous activity which is usually considered to be antisocial. Okay, and even this is satisfying to the person seeking self validation for his unique talents. Okay, now because there is a shape shifting involved, others may think of the native as some insincere guy or girl. Okay, but no matter how close others get, a shadow will always obscure this identity of the native. Okay, as if he or she is only comfortable revealing a position of himself. Okay, so this constant need to adapt and camouflage may lead to real confusion. Okay, causing the native to question his true identity. Okay, and when you start doubting your own identity, you'll also start doubting the identity of others. It's very common to happen. Okay, now these natives, they may also have trust or boundary issues, unable to share his or her vital space. Yes, what are the vital spaces? The physical space, the psychological space, the environmental space, etc. Okay, so lack of trust can also can also lead to a quest for more of whatever is desired. Okay, for example, if the native does not have trust in his partners, then he or she may desire something more outside the relationship, even if it does not satisfy him or her. Okay, and usually these natives, even after pursuing their passions, they don't understand what's going on. Okay, and all these people know is that things aren't what they seem. Okay, now if such a native cannot get the attention he craves, there may be psychological consequences. Okay. For example, say someone is a narcissist. So what happens? What could be the worst thing to happen to a narcissist? He or she can be ignored. Yes. So for example, suppose someone is a megalomaniac. In that case, what happens? The worst thing to happen is when nobody obeys that megalomaniac. Yes. For example, if someone is an nymphomaniac, then the worst thing to happen to such a person is to be sexually rejected. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that when reality does not match his or her fantasies about life, about other people, then the psyche may crack. Okay. And because of this cracked psyche, peculiar personality disorder may manifest, you know and such disorders may manifest over a range of neurosis, including depression. Okay, because if the native cannot come to terms with his failure, then it can lead to a lot of overthinking, which eventually culminates into depression. Okay, and optimally he may find the strength to start all over, perhaps with with more realistic ambitions. Okay, and what are realistic ambitions? Ambitions whose achievement nurture our self-worth, only those are realistic. Yes, but then if such realistic ambitions fail for these natives, they usually keep a lot of dead end options. Okay, maybe psychotic breaks or descent into drugs or alcohol, or even institutionalization of themselves. Okay, so let's take a break and then we will continue. Okay. Yes. Now, what was I? Where was I at? Yeah. So we spoke about the personality disorders. Now we will, speak a bit about the relationships. Because Cato is an so this native, he or she will assume that he or she is superior to the partner. Okay, and how the superiority will be conveyed, maybe via greater physical prowess. Okay, maybe by convincing himself or herself that they have a more charming personality as compared to the partner. Okay, maybe they will have a heightened sense of sexuality. No, no, we are still in Rahu in the first. Okay, we're just discussing the relationship aspect of it. Okay. uh yeah, and then such superiority to the partner or spouse may also manifest by an illusion of greater intelligence. Okay, so in any case these people will think that the partner, that they are more deserving of admiration or entitlement. Okay, they are more deserving of accolades as compared to their partner. Okay, and you have to note here that the Rahu native is just as likely a woman as a man. Okay, even a woman can feel more deserving of admiration or entitlement as compared to the male partner. Okay, and these people, they usually have very little empathy for others. Okay, and they have a great appetite. Okay, they will have a great appetite, and they will usually try to have everything on the table regardless of who else is hungry. Okay, and I have personality test, because at one point of time I was dating a person who was having this combination. Okay, now there will be a great need to be visible and to be appreciated, and because of this the native will usually push others to the sidelines so that he or she can bathe in the spotlight. Okay, and whenever these people, they need to fulfill their sexual desires with different lovers, then they will all of a sudden throw away the formal partner. It's just like changing clothes. Yes, they change their partners just like changing clothes. Okay, and when these people seek power, then they will have a tendency to silence anyone in order to seize the throne. Okay, so this Rahu, it is like the head of the serpent. Yes, Rahu always has a head, but he does not have a body. So these people, they are always hungry, but they are never satisfied. Okay, and usually, you know to rise above the ranks over others, whether in personal, social, or political relationships, these people will often use physical force, emotional extortion, sexual manipulation. Yes. So these are the methods that these people use to climb up the social ladder. All right. And with the nodes in the first or seventh houses, it can be Ketu in the first, Rahu in the seventh house also. Okay. It's a classic pattern for adultery. Okay. And this adultery will be initiated either by the native or the partner. And if it is not that bad as I am telling you, at a minimum there will be some confusion about relationships. Okay. And if there is no confusion, then at least there will be some kind of trust issues with the partner. Okay. So then split personality shown by Rahu or Ketu, it is a combination of both. Okay. Don't think that the nodes are don't think that the nodes are two different grahas. They are not planets, they are grahas. Because others are, other planets have a physical presence. These are grahas. So they'll grasp your personality. Okay. They'll grasp your personality. These are two parts of the same, of the same body. Yes. So one part is showing something, the other part is showing something, but don't consider them as planets because they don't have a body. They will just grasp your personality and they do it together. The grasping usually happens together. Okay. Yeah. So as I said, there will be some kind of trust issues with the partner. Okay. And socially speaking, the native is usually attracted to a bohemian crowd. Okay. And friends will include foreigners, outcasts of some sort, maybe people who have been thrown out of the society because of their addictions to drugs or alcohol. And sometimes these people will also befriend others with ulterior motives. Okay. And then usually or occasionally they also get caught up in some intrigues. Okay. But rather than cutting off such associations, they will be inclined to mingle, or blend in just for the experience. Okay. So it's a hunger that is never satisfied. Okay. Just hold on. So as I was saying, Rahu is the head of the serpent that is always hungry. So so this crazy hunger is just for the experience to experience everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay. Now since the nodes are functionally like sponges, as I said, okay, the influence of other planets will determine how they manifest. Yes, the influence of the dispositor will also determine how the karma will play out. Okay. So how to study this yoga? Apart from Rahu, just note whether any other planet occupies the first house. Okay. And the presence of other planets in the first house with Rahu will color the attitudes and behaviors of the native in his or her drive to achieve recognition and power. Okay. So for example, if sun joins Rahu, or if Rahu is disposited by the sun, if the sun is Rahu's dispositor, I'll just go over all the planets. Okay. For example, if Rahu is in Leo, okay, or if sun joins Rahu, then the native will use whatever power is available to command and control. Okay. Exercising a lot of executive privilege to have what is otherwise denied to ordinary people. Okay. For example, say you're this native has gone to a concert on a normal or ordinary pass. All of a sudden, they might manipulate someone to give their VIP pass to them so that they can take the front seat in the concert. Okay. So it's strange, it's funny, and it's diabolical. Okay, if I have to use the word. Now, if Rahu is in Cancer, or if Rahu is joining the moon, then such a person will conduct his or her affairs with high drama, making emotional appeals wherever necessary, but delicate under pressure. Okay. If Rahu is with Mars, or if Rahu is in either Aries or Scorpio, then such a person will throw caution to the wind. Okay, advance his or her agenda with a lot of haste. Okay, and even take risks on a physical, sexual, or even political level. Okay, maybe political assassination, if that serves the purpose of of reaching the throne. Okay, if Rahu is in if is joining Mercury or is in Virgo or Gemini, then these people will be very good bargainers. Okay, they will have a great ability to negotiate and appeal through logic to gain his or her desired ends. Okay, and for gaining this, for gaining the objective, lies and misinterpretations or misrepresentations will be very common. Okay, now if Rahu is in the sign of Jupiter, for example, if Rahu is with Jupiter, or if Rahu is in Sagittarius or Pisces, then these people will utilize legal means. Okay, they will claim seniority, beg for favors, or appeal to justice as the rationale for gaining as much as possible. Yes, you've seen journalists who write those articles. If a terrorist is killed, there are some journalists who will write how a headmaster's son is killed. Okay, so this is Rahu in Jupiterian sign, or Rahu, you know, joining Jupiter. Okay, in the first house. Yes. Now, if Rahu is with Venus, in a way it is good, because Venus will give direction to the native. Okay, Rahu with Venus is not bad as many people think. Venus will give direction to the native. The native knows where he or she has to go. On the flip side, if Rahu is with Venus, or if Rahu is in Taurus or Libra, then these people, they will conspire to achieve success through seduction, through sugar coated promotions, financial inducements, and even sexual excess. Okay, and finally, if Rahu is in a Saturnine sign, or if Rahu is with if Rahu is with Saturn, or if Rahu is in Aquarius or Capricorn, then such a native will proceed with calculated caution, conserving resources and minimizing risks to the physical self, social status, or financial affairs. Okay, because Saturn is the jail, and Saturn usually puts Rahu in jail if Saturn is aspecting or conjoining Rahu. Okay, so this is about the Rahu in first house personality. I wanted this to be as descriptive as possible, so that you can read the psychology of the client who is approaching you for a reading. Okay, so do you have any questions here? Okay, all right then. Thank you for joining in. I'll see you tomorrow for the Vedic Foundation class, and next week we will be having a webinar on the on a very special topic which is very close to my heart. I wanted to do this for a long time. Lajja Adi Avastha of the planets. Okay, Lajja Adi Avastha. Yes, so many people might have not heard of it, but it's a very important predictive tool that you must know. Right? Again, so happy weekend to everyone, and I'll see you next week with another class. Namaste. Om Gurave Namaha.